Let's go to the Word. And you never know how tied you are to something until you have to give it up. And Abraham is upset. He doesn't even want to admit that it's even remotely about Hagar. He says, I'm upset about my son. But God said, isn't it funny how God knows you? Knows things even when you're in denial. So we're talking about soul ties tonight. We're talking about soul ties, and we're talking about denial. Soul ties, those bonds that are created between you and other people and other things and other situations where you become tied, dependent or codependent upon them and find it very difficult to separate. They're not always sexual soul ties. There can be emotional soul ties. Emotional soul ties where you become dependent upon somebody, have attachments and ideas and concepts the person doesn't always even have to know. I've never seen it so quiet in here in all the years I've been pastor. You'd be surprised how people play mind games with themselves. Illusions and fantasies and ideas and concepts just to help them get through life because they are so lonely or so desperate or so disappointed, so alienated that they create scenarios in their own mind for their own pleasure and enjoyment to console them and comfort them through a crisis and then find it very difficult to give up what they started. That's why whenever possible, it's always better to preach to somebody to prevent them from the attachment because it's easier to prevent it than it is to break the pattern once it starts. Soul ties. It's always better to take your burdens to the Lord and lay them on the altar and develop relationships with him because sometimes in a crisis you can cry on a shoulder that you find yourself wrapped around. I thought that I would do this message on a Sunday, but for some reason God has me doing it tonight. And maybe there's somebody here that we could just talk about this a little while. Soul ties. Soul ties. Ties that make you miserable to break and unable to keep. Trapped between two polarities. Can't do with them. Can't do without him. Abraham, the great man of faith, the patriarch of Judaism, the father of faith, is tied to a situation that he can't do with and he can't do without. And to that he adds anger, which is denial, because he doesn't want to admit that he can't break away. And even to God he lies and says this is about the son. But God says, oh no, it's not totally about the son. You've become bond to the bondwoman. Now Abraham is in a situation, and I want you to see this, and I'll get out of your way. We like to think that praise is hallelujah, you know. That praises. We like to think that praise is just lifting our hands and shabbaking God, halal, to just dance in his presence, to prostrate. That's nice. But the third dimension of praise is not about a bodily exercise, a clapping of hands, a dancing or a laying prostrate in the floor. The third dimension of praise is when there is something in your life to which you have become extremely attached. And God says to you, give it up. Now, when you hit this third dimension, you can't dance over this. You can't shout over this. You can't clap and throw your hands up and spin around and avoid the issue, because now here is the third dimension of praise. Lovest thou me more than these? Now this is a lot easier to preach than it is to live. It's a lot easier to teach than it is to do, because it is easy for Sarah to dismiss Hagar because Sarah's not bound by it. I can toss cigarettes in the trash can. I don't smoke. Pour liquor down the drain. I don't need it. I don't want it. Don't have any use for it. Don't care about it. But the things you can give up easily are not the sacrifice. See, I'm not talking about the stuff that you can easily walk away from. I'm talking about that little crutch you got. Lord, I've never seen it so quiet in my life. The crutch that puts your faith into contradiction. You said God could do anything. You said, Lord, I'll never deny you. But the Lord said, you know what, before the cock crows, you're going to do that again. Contradiction. I wish I could take a picture of y'all's face and mail it to you just so you could see. So you could just see. Now, here's Abraham's dilemma, because there is no question here. He is bond to the bondwoman and her son, because Abraham has waited all of his life to have a son. And Hagar brings him a son, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. How many men have a son in here? Do you understand what I'm saying, brothers? That initial moment when you look your son in the face. You have to be a man to understand what happens when you see your seed standing up looking back at you. There is no doubt that there is an attachment to this son, but this whole son issue for Abraham is a mistake. And now Abraham has had Isaac, which is a miracle. And his mistake and his miracle are both growing up together. See, life works out better when you can put the mistakes over here and the miracles over there. But isn't it a mess when they both grow up together? Third point I want you to see, there is a while that you can get your mistake and your miracle to live together in the same house without one making fun of the other. But sooner or later, your mistake will mock your miracle. I'm wondering if there's anybody in here who knows what it's like to have your mistake mock your miracle. To have your mistake say to your miracle, I thought you were the child of God. I thought you were supposed to be so saved. I thought you had great victory in your life. Then why? Oh, y'all don't understand what I'm talking about. Let me talk to these folks over here. Have you ever had two contradictory things existing and both of them was your kids? One of them was born out of the flesh, and the other was born out of the spirit, and you couldn't deny neither one of them because both of them look like you. Now, it's one thing for you to say, no, this is the devil's baby, but no, this is not the devil's baby. This is your baby. The devil didn't do this to you, Flip Wilson. You did this to yourself. This is your child. See, it's easy to walk away from something that's not you. But Abraham couldn't look at Ishmael and deny that it was his child. It was his child. And Isaac was too. And now Abraham's right and Abraham's wrong have run into each other, and now they're mocking each other. And God says, you have come to a crossroad. if you leave your right and your wrong growing up together long enough, pretty soon they're going to start fighting in your tent. What are you going to do, Abraham, when the right in you starts fighting with the wrong in you? Now, can I go deeper? God says some of it is about your mistake and your miracle, and some of it is about this bondwoman. God didn't put out Hagar nor Ishmael. He told Abraham to do it. I grew up as a little boy in the Baptist church, and there used to be a man in our church named Mr. Dean. And Mr. Dean could really sing. And Mr. Dean used to sing a song called Search Me, Lord. Search me, Lord. I believe it said, just turn that light from heaven on my soul. Mr. Dean's eyes would roll back in his head when he'd sing it. He'd say, if you find anything, oh, he could sing, that shouldn't be, take it out and straighten me. I want to be right. I want to be saved. I want to be whole. Search me, Lord. Search me, Lord. Just turn that light from heaven on my soul. If you find anything that shouldn't be, take it out, Lord, and straighten me. I want to be right. I want to be saved. I want to be whole. Oh, everybody would shout. But I found out later that when God does turn the light on you, he generally doesn't take anything away from you. He doesn't put out your Hagar or dismiss your Ishmael. You have to do that. Oh, it's going to be rough in here. Because you see, if God takes it away from you, that's not the sacrifice of praise. If God went out and he picked the lamb and he killed the lamb and he offered it up, then God doesn't get any glory out of it. But when you go out there and take something that you could have used and enjoyed and said, Lord, I'm not going to eat this lamb, I'm going to offer it up before you, that, oh God, is a sacrifice. I'm going somewhere. Anytime you deny your flesh and tell your flesh, no, I love God more than I love my flesh, that is the sacrifice.
Still to come on The Potter's Touch.
Does anybody know the tension that exists when you are torn between two lovers? And God ain't going to do it for you. He's just going to stand over on the side and say, now bring it as a sacrifice.
God longs not just to provide all you need, but for your whole family and for 1,000 generations to come.
You will live and die and not spend up all the blessing that God's going to release upon you and upon your children and upon your children's children.
He supplied more than enough in the Garden of Eden. And that is still God's desire for you today. For helping us reach others with your best gift of any size, you will receive a Beyond the Blessing DVD. Just visit our website or call 1-800-BISHOP-2.
Adam had to think himself special. He had to feel like, this is where I live. I dwell in the place of abundance.
When your gift is $75 or more, we will include Bishop Jake's mini book, 1,000 Generations of Blessing. However, when your gift is $150 or more, we will also add Bishop Jake's 4-message DVD, 1,000 Generations of Blessing, along with an inspirational coaster set. Let us help change the direction of your legacy for 1,000 generations.
Hagar said put her out, but Hagar didn't have the authority to put her out. Somebody else can come along and tell you what you ought to do, but when it all boils down, you're the one that has to do it. Because when you do it, it becomes the